Suffolk County Legislator Ann Welker.
Charlie Bartha, Suffolk County DPW Commissioner.
Tom Neely, a traffic consultant to the town of Southampton.
Charlie McCardle, Highway Superintendent, Town of Southampton.
Jim Kiernan, Chief of Police.
Jason Cordy, former captain of the Southampton Fire Police.
Donna Kremborg, ex-chief of Southampton Volunteer Ambulance.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to the members of the public for joining us this evening. Just a quick little overview of last meeting held April 10th. We wanted to kind of brainstorm to figure out what specific concepts and ideas we're going to be talking about and really focusing on. Obviously, because County Road 39 is such a significant artery for us here in Southampton, a lot of conversation did touch on 39. We received some emails stating that we needed to also talk about other areas, and we do intend to do so. In fact, that's why we ensure that there is a section dedicated to public comment for each of these meetings, because going around here in residence, we've heard that people know specific issues going on in their community, and some of these matters are very unique to where they live. So we want to make sure that all of us who are up here are able to hear you, the people and residents of Southampton Town, so we can find solutions to some of the matters going on. Just a quick overview of what we discussed in the last meeting. We discussed the purpose of this task force is not just to be proactive, find solutions, which we've already done, we've already begun, but we are also charged with issuing a final report, which is going to outline short-term and long-term goals for the town of Southampton. Some of the issues that we touched upon pertain to Station Road and Watermill, Flying Point Road, some speeding and congestion on Noyak Road, traffic volume, Ponquag Avenue and Squiretown Road, Route 24 in Flanders, Spionk Riverhead Road and Old Country Road, speed signs. We've been working on that. And so we are going to be diving into our meeting today. We're going to be hearing from Tom Neely, our traffic consultant, who's going to talk a little bit about some traffic data. We're going to then hear from you, the public. You'll have about an hour, and then we have to move on to our other items. We are here till 8 o'clock, and that will be a hard stop. We'll get some updates from the Highway Superintendent, Charlie McCardle, who's here. We'll also get some updates from our Police Chief, James Kiernan, and then we'll discuss very briefly our next meeting items. So without further ado, I will yield to our co-chairs, Tom and Charlie. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I would like to start by making a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting,
So
which have
moved.
been distributed.
So moved.
Okay, anyone to second that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're good. I'm going to go up to the podium and give a little presentation for everybody's review. I also would like to thank everybody for coming tonight, for those that are going to watch us on CTV and on our YouTube channel.
I just want to also make sure, Peter, just make sure also the PowerPoint is also on the screen for our members on Zoom. Thank you. Oh, and Tom Houghton, our town engineer, is here. Tom, you can grab a seat up there. Thank you.
Okay, as Councilman Iselli said, I'm going to, and we have on our agenda, I'm going to talk a little bit about.
Speak louder.
Sure.
Microphone louder. Speak into closer. Thank you. There we go.
Okay, let me know if that's good. I am going to talk a little bit about traffic data town-wide. And as you can see from the slide, I like to start with this picture. Rather than have a guessing game as to what that is, I will tell you that is a picture of County Road 39 under construction in 1952. The deputy highway superintendent at that time went up in a plane and took this picture, and his family gave it to me several years ago. When I look at it, well, I'd like to thank the Price family because they were the folks that graciously let us use it. I look at that picture and I think of two things: land use and growth. And we're a long ways from where we were 72 years ago. Next slide, please. What we're looking at now is a map of all the roads in the town of Southampton, classified by the colors classified different sizes of the roads, functions of the roads, state, county highways, the town roads. The village roads are on there as well. And I want to just help us orient and remind everybody that this is a network. Our road system, like everyone else's road system in the country, is a network. It's not a series of individual roads. They are all interconnected, intertwined. What happens on one road affects what happens on another road. There are driver dynamics involved. No one goes in a straight line from one point to another. Take a lot of turns, take a lot of routes, go from a lot of origins and a lot of destinations. So we're working in a very dynamic situation when we talk about roads and traffic improvement in the town of Southampton. That's become even more obvious with the introduction of GPS and how that has changed the landscape for navigating around the town and throughout the Long Island. We have about 450 miles of town roads, 150 miles of state and county roads, plus about 100 miles of private roads in the town of Southampton. So we've got a lot of road to deal with. Can I have the next slide, please, Paula? What you see here, those little dots on the map of the town, are locations where the state of New York, the DOT, has conducted counting. They have placed temporary counting stations at all of those locations to obtain traffic counts at various times throughout the years. As you can see, there have been a great many of them put up. Some are put up in the same place, some are moved around. They take traffic counts in different locations in different years. There are, so those are temporary. Those are what they call short count stations, and we'll talk a little more about that a little later. But they're all over the town, and they've measured traffic all over the town, and that information is publicly available on the state DOT website. There are 2 permanent counting stations in the town of Southampton, excuse me, that they work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. One of them is up by the roundabout in Riverside. I think it's actually on Lake Avenue or in the roundabout itself there. The other one, and the one we're going to focus on today, is is on Sunrise Highway at the Peconic Bridge overpass, just west of County Road 39. Paula, I don't know if you can highlight that. I have a yellow dot on it, but I don't know if we could see the yellow dot. But Paula is pointing at the spot where this permanent counter is located. I like to use that counter because it is permanent. All the other stations can provide valuable information, but they're not there all the time. And so this one is there. You can look at a lot of data and see what long-term trends are based on actual traffic volume counts, not estimates or projections. Can you go to the next slide, please? This slide is taken right from the dashboard of that traffic counter at Sunrise Highway and Peconic Road. It contains information on the actual, average annual daily traffic volume, AADT, which is the counting of all the vehicles that cross Sunrise Highway east or west at this counting station. Maybe a little bit hard to read. I'll just read off some of the numbers. The traffic volume, actual traffic volume in 2014 Both directions averaged 37,950 vehicles a day. 2015, it was 39,735. And I think we'll make this presentation available to people so you don't have to write all these numbers down, or you can go on the state DOT website and look them up yourself. But I'll go through the rest of those years. 2016, it was 39,700. 2017, it was 39,974. 2018, 39,581. 2019, 39,265. 37,552 in 2020, and I think that may be a function of COVID, but we could talk about those kind of things in the future. And then I'm going to jump to 2022, which was the next year for an actual count. The count was 43,094. The single truck and combination truck counts are underneath that. I'm not going to go through those, but the truck, about 5% of the vehicles coming through there are trucks, and single and double combination trucks. That change from 2014 to 2022 is about a 13.6% growth in the traffic over 9 years.
Sorry, Tom, what was the
Yeah.
percentage of trucks? I'm sorry, can you repeat?
5%.
5%.
5% trucks. Those are single unit trucks and combo unit trucks. And again, I will remind everybody, this is 24-hour-a-day data. I think we probably all have a sense, and we're probably right, that there's a lot more trucks coming east in the morning. But when you get into the afternoon, when you get into the evening, those are not trucks coming east, which is why that number may be a little lower than what you think. And again, I will say this is the traffic volume in both directions. Now, if you go to the next slide, Paula, I'd like to look at traffic volume at that location, State Route 27 to Peconic Road. This is for the year 2023. The data we just looked at on that dashboard was only up through 2022. So I dug a little deeper into the website. I found the actual count data, the raw data that the state uses for 2023, and I added up, all 12 months so that we could look at more current data, get right up to 2023. You'll see up there the average of volume by month goes anywhere from about 31,000 vehicles a month in January to 51,000 vehicles a month in July and August. The percentage total of each of the year is also on that chart on the right, and again, we will make this available to everybody. The average annual daily traffic in 2023 was 44,574 vehicles. If you go back to where we started, the 2024 data, we are looking at about a 17% increase over those 10 years. So it's probably about a 1.5% growth a year over those 10 years. I would also like to point out that workday volume is higher than 7-day-a-week volume, than weekend volume. That's another measurement you can get from this. There is more traffic Monday through Friday than there is on Saturdays and Sundays. Again, not a shocker, but you can look at it both ways. You can look at a workday and you can look at a 7-day total. Okay, can we go to the next slide then, please? Now, I thought this was interesting to look at. This is traffic volume by day, by time of day. The pink line is an average workday. The black line is the 7-day average. So the information in the pink is incorporated into that black line. This is looking at May of 2023. I wanted to look at one off-season month, and we're going to look in a minute at July, so we could look at one in-season month. The time goes from midnight on the left to midnight of the next night to that night on the right. So you've got the whole day charted out by hour there. I put a little yellow highlighter down there at the bottom, which shows the peak is between 5 and 6 a.m. Again, our presumption is that a vast majority of that is eastbound traffic, but this, again, is counting traffic in both directions. So for the workday, the average workday, the peak is around 5 a.m. Going, again, presumably most of that going east. The return traffic peaks between 4 and 5 p.m. over to the right. That little hump there on the right is the return, presumably the westbound return traffic, which peaks at 4 to 5 p.m. The 7-day-a-week traffic, you see, doesn't go nearly as high, doesn't peak. So that shows the influence of the later hours on weekends for people coming east. The peak time for 7-day-a-week traffic is between 11 and noon. So again, it shows kind of a very different travel pattern on weekends. And if we can, and I would also like to point out that we're talking, if you look at the volume numbers, the peak in the afternoon PM, the pink highlight there is around 3,500 vehicles an hour, somewhere in that range. On the 7-day average, the peak is around 2,900 vehicles. So again, your volume isn't nearly as high on the weekends as it is during the work week. If we could go to the next one. So this is July. Wanted to show some of the difference between in-season and off-season. First thing I'll point out is that the numbers are much higher. Where we saw that pink line peak, it was around 3,000 vehicles. On this chart, that line coming across is 4,000 vehicles. So you've gone from, you know, a peak of maybe 3,000 vehicles a day in May to a peak of 4,000 vehicles a day in the middle of the summer. You'll also notice, and we may click back and forth a couple times, don't want to get anybody dizzy, but the peaks are flattened out. They're much closer to each other. Because again, in July and August, that summer traffic, the tourists, the vacationers, the second homeowners are kind of helping to level out the traffic volumes and the peak hours versus May, which again tends to be much more of just workforce-focused traffic. So you have higher volumes in July. You also have longer periods. There you can see that, again, going to the right, the traffic remains higher later into the evening. It peaks around 5 or 6 p.m. in May, and it peaks around 8 p.m. In July. And I think it's stretched out there a little bit. I think that reflects you probably have more restaurants, you have more bars, you have more activities going on later in the evening in July and August than you do in, you know, May or April. The peak time coming east in the morning, or the peak time in the morning, remains about the same. And again, you see the 7-day-a-week traffic, that peak time, the high point on the black dot there is again around noon. But the volume there is around 3,500 vehicles. So again, you see much higher volume, you see it much more spread out. The peak effect that you see in the off-season is kind of leveled off by more of the traffic all of the time. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, we've spent a little time talking about County Road 39 and Sunrise Highway at Peconic Road. And I did want to point out that that counter, although it's on Sunrise Highway and it's not on County Road 39, it's about a mile west of where County Road 39 starts. There is only one off-ramp between where those counters are and where County Road 39 starts, and that's the North Road off-ramp. So we may lose a little westbound traffic on these counts. But I think it's probably reflects the entrance to 39, maybe to 95% accuracy, something like that. I also would like to point out, going back to the comment about it's a dynamic situation and people are turning on and off. If you go halfway down County Road 39, you'll find the traffic volumes are different. And that's true on just about any road. And we're going to look at a couple of those examples right now.
Tom, this particular data that you're showing here.
Yes.
That's also from the DOT?
Yes, these are all DOT numbers. The County Road 39 or Sunrise Highway information was the permanent counter. These are short counts that we see here for a couple of the local roads. I wanted to put a few of those up. So I just picked a handful of them. I have a few more that are not displayed here, and we can always look some up ourselves on the DOT website. State Route 24, again, another heavily trafficked road in the town. Just east of where Pleasure Drive intersects State Route 24, Flanders Road, the daily average in 2020 was 19,052 vehicles a day. County Road 80, Montauk Highway in East Quogue. This counting station was just east of the intersection of County Road 104 and Montauk Highway, or County Road 80. The average annual daily traffic was 7,979, and that count was taken in 2019. County Road 80, Montauk Highway, same road, a few miles east at Shinnecock Bay. Victoria Road, I believe, is the intersection there, but it's as you make the big bend on Montauk Highway there around the bay. That's where this counter was. Traffic volume was 13,097 vehicles a day, and that count was taken in 2020. Hill Street, just east of Moses Lane in the village. Traffic count was 14,800 vehicles. Again, that count was taken in 2020. Noyak Road, near Trout Pond. Traffic count was 12,680 vehicles, and that count was taken in 2022. And Noyak Road is another good example where you go from one end of Noyak Road to the other end of Noyak Road, and you will see traffic counts that can vary by, a couple of thousand vehicles. And that reflects all of the vehicles getting on and off of Noyak Road at the many streets and intersections along the way. State Route 27 in Watermill, Montauk Highway in Watermill, just east of Scuttle Hole Road, right in front of the garden center there. The traffic counts were 24,600 in 2022. And I would like to point out that this count of 24,600 on State Route 27, Montauk Highway in Watermill, is somewhat reflective of research that we had done many years ago in the town, which I don't believe has changed a whole lot, which said that pretty much somewhere in the range of 50% of the people that enter Southampton, enter County Road 39, are heading to East Hampton. They are not going to places, within the town. The number was 50, 45%. I forget exactly what it was many years ago. But if you look at this number is about exactly half of what that number was, the counts we took out at the Peconic overpass. So I think that's consistent that, and a point to be made, is that a lot of the traffic that's coming through our town is going straight through to East Hampton. So this is, to a great degree, a regional issue. And everybody in East Hampton goes west sooner or later. So they're also going through our town. So that's pretty much the last of the data I have to share. I do have one more slide. I'd like to close with a reminder. Councilman Schiavone came up and spoke at the podium at the last meeting to tell everybody about a May 17th rally that we're all the towns and Assemblyman Thiel and many others will be attending. Business leaders and riders of the South Fork Commuter Connection will be meeting at the Hampton Bays train station on May 17th for a rally for funding for improved infrastructure for the rails on the South Fork. Many needs have been identified for improvements to the rails. And the needs go back, the identification of those needs go back 20 years, but the funding has never been put in the MTA or LIRR budget. So led by our elected officials, our business leaders, and many loyal riders of the South Fork Commuter Connection, we're going to have a rally there at 3:45 on a Friday. Somebody said 3:45 is not a good time, except what it does, it's when the train from Montauk, East Hampton, Bridgehampton, and Southampton gets to Hampton Bays to let all those happy riders off the train. Gets there at 3:45, so we're going to have the rally when all those folks get off that train. And I'd like to encourage everybody to get on the train with us if you'd like, or meet us there. Ask your employers and your employees maybe to also attend. This is going to be a concerted effort to try to get funding put in the 2025 MTA LIRR capital budget for necessary improvements to be able to improve the frequency, increase the frequency of the train service on the South Fork. Right now, the South Fork Commuter Connection and some of the related trips take in the neighborhood of 400 cars a day off the road. And this is the only strategy that I think we're talking about right now that actually reduces vehicular traffic. So I'd encourage everybody to try to attend that rally, or at least send some letter of support that we can use with the MTA and the LIRR.
Thank you,
That's it.
Tom. Thank you, Tom. And do we have any questions from any of the task force members?
It was a great presentation.
I'm guessing
Okay.
this is the newest data that was available, correct?
Yeah, the 2023, well, I actually have looked at the first quarter of 2024. I was going to look at this morning's data, but it wasn't in yet. The first quarter of 2024, the numbers, the traffic numbers there at the Peconic Overpass are just ever so slightly ahead of the first quarter of 2023, so.
I was interested in the Montauk Highway at the Shinnecock Bay.
That's the latest. That's where one of those short counts are taken, the kind of
Okay.
temporary. They do 3 or 4 days, and then they come back sometimes a couple of years later. It can vary. But I'd be glad to sit with you, Charlie, if you want to, show you how that traffic data viewer works, if you
I
want to
would-
do that.
I would guess, and I'm sure the chief would agree, that since we started the cones at that spot, that it actually attracts more cars, because you get through it quicker, that it's become a very popular way to go. So I would just be interested to see, the cones have been in full force for the last 2 years, right, 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years.
Right.
So I'm just wondering if the numbers are going up, because I know people are taking Dune Road and every which way they can to get through at Canoe Place and Montauk Highway.
Right.
But
I
anyway,
am, you bring up a good point, and we can go back. I did look at Newtown Road, for example, Canoe Place Road, and I have some of that information. The counter at Canoe Place Road is kind of south of where I think people, for example, would be using Fanning. So we're not catching them right up there at the intersection.
gotcha.
I have some counts over, I think it's by Breakwaters over on Newtown. Again, we could look at some of that. Unfortunately, it's not a 24/7 counter, but,
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I could imagine that it attracts more cars because it works.
well, I am also, kind of separately from this, have been tracking on Google Maps 2 or 3 times a week at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and 9 a.m. I track from Macy's to Town Hall, and I've been mapping those. And I think maybe we'll talk about travel times might be something, and travel routes might be something, to talk about in a future meeting. But I do have some information
Thank you.
we could take a look at.
How do the traffic counters determine if it's a truck or a car by weight?
Um,
Going over the?
I believe it's by weight. Yes, yeah. I'll double check that for you.
And also in those totals that you had brought up, is there any way to decipher, is that a combination of east and westbound traffic? Or is there delineation between the eastbound cars and westbound?
You can, it's a really good question, and yes, you can break it out eastbound and westbound. For today's purposes, I figured we'd just do that, but we might want to
That would be a great.
take a look at
I think
eastbound and westbound.
breaking it up might be a good thing to look at for our next meeting, along with the travel times and routes, Tom.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. And we can also, as I said, at any time, look at all those little dots on the map. If somebody wants a lesson on how to pull that stuff up or has a particular location they want, I can certainly, take a look at that limited information that's offered at some of those short count stations. But we'll look at eastbound and westbound, break that down. Same information, but maybe break down eastbound and westbound.
Right, and just say.
Okay.
I'd be curious to see where it came. I think I have an idea, but
Right.
I'd like to see factual.
Right. Well, I think it's, one of the things that's come up over the years, we think it's all eastbound in the morning. But there's actually a relatively high number of volume of traffic going west, might surprise some people. So it's definitely worth looking at.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Any other questions? We're good?
Good.
Let's move on to public portion. We'll hear from the folks in the room who filled out a card first, and then we'll go on to Zoom. I just want to mention, we'll have about an hour to speak. Just try and if other people that you are with are speaking about the same things, try to just let us know so we can try to make sure we get to every single person. If we have some time later on in the meeting, we can allow you to speak and make your comments. So we'll get started. Carrie, I'm sorry. Carrie, sorry.
I'm just going to actually hand it out to each of you. So it's just what Mr. Neely was talking about. There was a study in 2015, and this actually, I don't know if you just want to pass them down.
Yeah, we'll just pass them
I
down.
just basically
you.
printed out and highlighted. Yeah, I hope you have enough. This specifically talks about our issue, quadrant 1. So if you have a moment to read through it, obviously not right now, but okay. And I'm here with some of my neighbors back here.
Thank you.
We all live off of Greenfield Road. So my name is Carrie Reedon, and my family has a home at 12 Hilltop Road in Shinnecock Hills. Our neighborhood has approximately 100 roads off of County Road 39 in Southampton Town. We're located between Hill Station and Tuckahoe Road, south of the highway. In 2008, when the county widened this portion of County Road 39, creating 4 lanes of traffic, our community members' safety was not taken into consideration. Our only exit from our homes is Greenfield Road onto County Road 39. We share the same corner with Beaufort Marine, Hardy Plumbing, and the Shell gas station, which now is a mini mart. The traffic at this corner has steadily increased over the past 16 years, creating an extremely unsafe situation for us to pull into or out of Greenfield Road. There have been over 100 accidents on this corner alone, including fatalities. County Road 39 is often shut down in both directions, which not only denies our residents access, but in the case of an emergency at one of our homes, it denies you first responders access. We've petitioned the town for over 8 years to grant us an access road, which would lead us safely onto County Road 39. The town of Southampton conducted a road study, which all of you have in front of you, just again pertaining to our issue. And it was suggested by some of the engineers to limit the curb cuts and open an access road from our community. We've held several meetings with Town Supervisor Jay Schneiderman, Town Attorney James Burke. I think Mr. Neely was in on this a little bit too, right? And the former Chief of Town Police, who all agreed that our current exit was a serious life safety issue for our residents and that an alternative exit was imperative. We had Zoom meetings, plans drawn up, and finally the town approved a road for us, allowing for a $1 million budget. However, that road was canceled, and we have not been privy to the reasons why it was canceled. But we cannot understand where you think another $1 million would be better spent than on the safety of your constituents. Not to take away from this, but I do appreciate the formation of another committee to sit around and lament about the safety and traffic woes of County Road 39. And I do look at this as another way to delay the completion of a safe exit from our community. Corridor studies, again, which you have, We're done with another one planned by Suffolk County, I think, this year. Is another one planned for 2024? Okay. So this most recent study that you have in front of you, which was the County 39 quarter land use study, clearly states that there are a substantial number of residential and residentially zoned properties which have only access to County Road 39. Whenever possible, they're making the suggestion, direct residential access should not be granted. Rather, access should be provided to another street which will allow access to County Road 39.
3 minutes.
Oh, can I continue?
You can conclude.
I'm almost done. Okay. The fact that our elected officials are willing to spend more money for another study without implementing any suggestions from this last study, I find grossly irresponsible when traffic, as Mr. Neely just said, and the population has only increased over the years. We've had a light at Shrubland Road for the U.S. Open, but it's always taken away right after the U.S. Open because I think it's the county does not want to prevent the commuters and the trade parade from getting to their destination. However, we don't understand why the commuters, tourists, and day trippers all seem to be prioritized over the people who live here, work here, pay taxes, and vote for all of you. So we've been working tirelessly for this 8 years. We've had countless meetings, and in the meantime, we still have no solution. So we're asking you, my neighbors, myself, what you are willing to do to help us. Because this is an accident waiting to happen. Obviously, there's accidents all the time. So,
4 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
This is for public comment, so we're going to go
That's it?
through all
Okay,
of them.
thank you.
Yeah. Morrison?
Good evening, committee members. My name is Renee Morrison, and I also live in the community in Shinnecock Hills with over 100 plus homes. Just to note, most of these homes have more than one resident. And if they have more than one resident, they have more than one car. So that a lot of these homes might have 2, 3, even 4 cars, which means there are hundreds of cars from our community that go in and out in a very, very dangerous situation 24/7. As taxpayers, we are not being given the proper security to enter and exit our community. The number of accidents, the number of fatalities backs up what I'm saying. And again, as Kerry just said, after 8 years of meetings, negotiations, we finally were given the grant of $1 million to build this access road so that we could safely leave our community. And now it was taken away. Why? I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Elena?
Hi, good evening. I'm president of the Noyak Civic Council, and as you know, many of you have been invited to some of our meetings. There's good reason for us to get involved and to be the advocates for Noyak. First of all, we have been meeting, on our own, trying to figure out the mystery of Noyak Road, and they might just make a movie about it one day when it's solved. But anyway, from the NCC, we've come up with a list of some suggestions that you might want to consider. First, smart lights. These are traffic lights that have sensors on the road. Some sensors use Google information as a database. And what happens, these sensors can tell where there's more traffic coming from one road rather than another road, and therefore the lights will change the amount of time that they're on. So that should be something maybe you could consider. If you've ever been at the intersection of North Sea Road and Noyak Road at about 4 or 5 o'clock, you know that there are no smart lights in that intersection because all it does is back up. The traffic backs up sometimes all the way to Fish Cove and further. And that's exactly the kind of situation we're trying to avoid, because that only adds to more pollution, for example. Okay, suggestion 2. Speed enforcement has been somewhat intermittent and ineffective. So maybe one of these days we can come up with some kind of a solution with the police involved or someone. I know that you fellows have something that you've been working on. Please try to calm the speed of the traffic on Noyak Road. 3, remove the obstacles to visibility. If you've been on Noyak Road a lot, you know that there's like driveway after driveway after driveway. It's mainly residential. If some people don't know enough to trim back their hedges or move a fence away from the road, perhaps it might be something that you could suggest. Someone go out, maybe code enforcement, to go out and say, look, your hedge is an obstacle to any car coming from this direction. Please trim it, cut it back, move your fence. Because then if you try to get out of your driveway, guess what? If it's clear, you can see. What a great idea. Okay, so maybe that's something that we should look at. 4, improve the traffic circles. For example, the one at Long Beach and Noyak Road. It's a popular place for families on the hill there of Long Beach Road and that whole area, Wickatuck and whatever, Valley Road. They use that road and the traffic circle to get to the beach. Here they are with carriages and children and whatever. And really, I think if there can be some improvement to that circle, it might make that crossing safer. Next, 5, speed tables perhaps should be tried out at certain intersections or even in the middle of a long road. These wide, flat objects, okay, would perhaps slow down vehicles because these are not just bumps, little speed bumps. No,
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Wow, okay. Instead, they make you slow down. There'll be a sign because it's the length of the entire vehicle. You have to slow down. And they're inexpensive. What a great idea that is. The Noyak Civic Council is circulating a survey among its 500 members. When we're done with that, we will give you a copy, and it will be tabulated just before our town supervisor comes to our June meeting, and we'll let you know. Please consider these options, and you know what? If you want, come and join us at a meeting. We'd love to have you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen?
Good luck saying the name. Brady Curzio. Good evening. My name is Maureen Brady Curzio. Can you guys hear me in the back? I live in Shinnecock Hills, just a bit west of the college. I'm happy to see Mr. Bartha is here from Suffolk County. I actually served on jury duty with a number of Suffolk County employees, and I understand that they have, I don't know what mechanism, to make sure that they go whatever speed limit wherever they are, which I commend. I think that's great. Because along County Road 39, nobody goes 35 miles an hour. Okay. I would like to know why there's no representation on this task force from the community other than from the reservation and the EMTs. My first question. I was hoping to hear some constructive ideas of how to relieve and help the safety of the town taxpayers. I guess because we're up ahead of a few other people, we'll have to wait and hear what they have to say next. Coming back to the speed limit, I would again invite all of you for breakfast. Some of you who have been on the board that I have already invited. Come to my home in Shinnecock Hills at 7 a.m. and then try to leave at 8 o'clock. Good luck. Going east or west out of our cul-de-sac. We've asked for a police presence to sit on County Road 39 to help traffic slow down. We've heard many different negative responses from the town for that. In 2 years, in 2026, the US Open will be back. Has anyone thought of working with the US Open administrators to keep the light that they seem to be able to install every time they're here, installed permanently? Using Tom's study, you know when the traffic is the heaviest, that's when we need it the most, okay? I invite you for breakfast because it's a nightmare to get out. I go east every day to go west. I go in the suicide lane. It's ridiculous. People are honking their horns because I'm cutting them off, okay? It's really a safety issue, and my life is at stake. Somebody told me that putting in a traffic light at Shrubland is $250,000. And I said, I don't know about you, but my life is worth more than $250,000. That's a little sad. Thank you. My husband would agree with that. Between 7 and 10 a.m. and then maybe again in the afternoon. Adjust the lights. They're all adjustable. I know this from many other, my defensive driving class told me that, okay? Have it synchronized with the light at the college so that traffic does go
3 minutes.
smoothly. Okay, I'm getting there. Giving us taxpayers the opportunity to get out of our streets, as well as visitors that need to go to Norsec, Northwell Cardiology, Southampton Mercantile, Bothell, okay? Those people are panicking getting across the lanes. I also know that people are using now the turning lane as another alternative to a lane. I've already called Mr. Romaine's office, hoping to schedule a meeting with him to review our concern about the last 10 years and the safety of our taxpayers and their families. Twice we have petitioned for an exit road, twice it was taken away, okay? I'm here only 23 years, okay? I'd like to be here for another 53 years. Thank you.
Byrne? No? Okay, thank you, Byrne. Debbie?
Hi, I'm Debbie Harrington. I live in Tuckahoe, off of Savonic. I ride my bike a lot, and there's still traffic flying. I've seen more police enforcement, but they're driving around. They need to sit and get their gun and shoot pointed at these cars and pull them over. That's still ongoing. And the biggest reason I'm here is because of the intersection of McGee Street and County Road 39. McGee, where it goes to Moses, over the railroad tracks, the traffic is backed up from the light to Moses, to Pelham, to Noyak Road. They're all coming through. And in the summer, coming from the village, I have to go through North Sea to get back to Shinnecock Golf Course. I think it's a doable thing to fix that intersection. I mean, years ago, I called and spoke with Mr. Neely, and it was because it was a road that intersects with the county road. The county has to have the rights to do whatever we're gonna do with this intersection. But if they put a left-hand turn signal for the traffic coming from Moses to McGee, all of them make a left-hand turn to go west. All of them. I, in turn, need to go straight to go home by Tuckahoe School. There needs to be another, the double lane going around that bend, because now the only way I can go straight is if I baja on the side of the road, which you can see, it's all torn up. That's the only way I can get to the light, or else I have to sit in this whole line for like 6 to 8 lights. And it's a doable fix to widen that all around the bend. I see that, I don't know what's going in the nursery and the potato barn there or whatever it is. They've widened that, they put curbing in, You only need one lane on that side. And then other fixes are, sometimes people park on the curb from the gas station. There should be no parking signs there. There should be signs from people coming out of the gas station to go to the light, and they sit sideways along the traffic lanes, blocking all the traffic. And nobody can move because these people have to wait until the people from the other side come out. And it can be fixed. I don't know if anybody's looked at it. It's been this way
3
for
minutes.
3 or 4 years, really bad, and nobody does anything about it. Has anybody looked at it at all? Ever? No?
So,
It's a bad situation. And they're up over the railroad tracks. Some people sit right on top of the tracks waiting. That's one, and I think if we could make all intersections as efficient as they possibly could be, and I agree with the other woman that said it's time that the local people get as much attention as the trade parade does.
Yep.
And I can't get in and out either. When I go to Riverhead and come home, how do I get home? You can't get over the highway. I have to go to the college, well, what was the college, make a right, make a U-turn, and sit at the light to go straight across. It's very dangerous.
thank you, Debbie. Peter, can you, are there people on Zoom that would like to speak? Okay, and just before that individual begins, I just want to say that for those of you that are, saying that the community needs to have a say in our traffic solutions, this is exactly why we put this together, because having a public comment period where we can hear what you're experiencing is exactly what will inform what we do going forward. So that's really a key element of this particular task force. So. Are they ready, Peter?
Hello? Hello?
Oh, we can't hear them.
Can you hear me? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Catherine Littlefield. And I'm a prisoner of Mill Farm Lane. I cannot get out of my driveway through my story to get onto Flying Point, to get onto Lower Southern Ponds Road. I have an echo, let me just shut this off. And the traffic coming into Flying Point has to make a left turn onto Diamond Court. That is a ways bypass to get out of the traffic. And so they go very fast. They ignore the no left turn and they go very quickly through from Flying Point to Diamond Court to Mill Farm to Seven Ponds. I brought this up before. There's no accountability. They violate the rules. There was one good day when Mr. Ricardo came and with cones, and it stopped it for one day in 3 years. We were hoping for a plan. We worked with Tom. He came up with solutions. Nothing ever came from it. There doesn't seem to be an interest in any accountability, a camera to capture scofflaws, make money for the town, the people who violate the law. It's kind of laissez-faire, let everyone do what they want. So we're going into the second year of these complaints, and the traffic is picking up, and the community would like some attention. I tried to email Mr. Ricardo. Everything gets bounced back, whatever email address I can. We were promised attention on doing our road over because us it's like a patchwork quilt. We were promised attention for our sinkhole that is covered by barrels. And I can't get anywhere. I can't even get a response, and I can't even do a follow-up email to Mr. Picardo. He seems unreachable when he was so reachable last year. Can you help us?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Catherine. Peter, is there anybody else? Nobody else on Zoom? Okay, so does anybody here want to just say anything at the podium? I'll allow for a few more speakers before we get into our next agenda items. Go ahead. Just make sure you address your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Nancy Ward. I live at 246 Sabonic Road. Lived there for close to 40 years. I've seen the traffic increase relentlessly. The police have been coming lately about one morning a week. Officer McMahon, he's doing a great job. He's busy every minute that he's there, pulling people over. There are close to 700 cars sometimes in the morning making that left turn that they're not supposed to make onto shrubland. And they don't do 30 miles an hour. We had the speed limit lowered. They're doing, actually, Officer McMahon told me, 68 miles an hour he clocked one guy at. That's ridiculous. We have children in our neighborhood. We have a school bus stop in our neighborhood. I know of at least one right down the road, right across the street a little bit from me. I don't know how many are further up the road. And if I wanted to get out at night to come here, I left at 20 after 5 because I thought, I don't know how long I'm going to have to sit at the McGee Street light. It's a 5-minute light. I sit at it 10 times a day sometimes. And, you know, the planning board let Mazaneski redo that barn. Looks fabulous. Truck traffic is up and down our road. Tractor trailers, semi-trailers, all the time. Now they're going to be moving in and out of there. The Star Aqua Center is going to be coming in and out of there. The Serve Pro is going to be across the street renovating that building. They're going to be coming in and out of there. It's crazy. It's all up and down in front of the school. And it's an accident waiting to happen. And at night, between 3 o'clock and 7:30, 8 o'clock now, the traffic is speeding. They turn from Barker's Island. They don't stop at the stop sign. And they're going downhill. They gain speed, and they're doing 60 all the way out to Shrubland Road. I don't know where they think they're going, because then they sit there for a half an hour to get out. It's like lawlessness, you know? It's where can we go? And the worst part about it, they're drinking when they're doing it. Because I know, I walk every day, and all I do is pick up beer cans, White Claw cans. If you drive down Shrubland Road, look on either side. Lots of beer cans, nothing else. An occasional coffee cup. But it's constant, and something has to be done. And I appreciate that the police have been there, but we need speed limit signs or something to enforce it. Because as soon as the officer leaves, tractor trailers, I had a tractor trailer take down the line to my house in October. And I called.
3 minutes.
I called the police already knew because they were there, because the lines were hanging in the road. So what did the people? It didn't stop them. Oh, we'll just drive on your lawn and go around it. You know, so we waited, and thankfully an Optimum guy happened along with a bucket truck, fixed it. But I did put in a call to the town engineer's office, to Nicholas Jimenez. No one called me back. I called 3 different people. I asked for Tom Neely. He doesn't work here. You know, no one did. But this is a tractor trailer with, you know, the wind scoop on it that took down my lines. And I had already left the house. My husband went running out. And, you know, he had to stand in the road and tell people, like, could you go a different way? It's crazy.
Thank
Why
you.
is there a tractor trailer
Thank you.
on that road?
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Hey, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Diane Sadowski, and I live at 53 Hilltop Road. I heard a lot about traffic volume, and I heard nothing about safety. There's nothing about enforcement of speed limit from anyone. Is that going to be addressed?
Yes.
I mean, I am on County Road 39, and most often, the traffic is going 50 to 60, and that has been going on for years. Is that going to be addressed?
Is that your question?
I have a
Okay.
question,
Yeah.
and I would like that question to be answered.
So it's not, so the public comment period isn't a dialogue, but we'll note that's a really important emphasis,
Yes,
that you want
would
the.
like to have answered at some point
Yep.
and addressed.
And we are, so thank
right.
you, Diane. And I just want to say, in terms of, Noyak Road was mentioned with speeding. We made sure that we got a speed monitor back up there. The CAC informed us that it was at the Christian Fellowship previously. There was a temp one located there, and they believed that it worked. It certainly, we've been seeing it work on Spionk Riverhead Road. So, we work to get that back there. So absolutely, speed monitors are a part of this as well. And we have to figure out how more structurally we address the speed issue. Is there anybody on the board that has any comments about any of the topics that were brought up before we move on? No? Okay, I have a couple more comments that came to us via email. And by the way, if I know that some people have had issues reaching certain individuals. If you would like to get your concern addressed, please email the traffic task force, which is traffic@southamptontowny.gov. Okay, again, that's traffic@southamptontowny.gov. So if you are concerned about speed, or if you are concerned about police enforcement, the chairs have access to that email. We could get something over to Chief Kiernan so that we can try to be as responsive as we can.
And I would like to follow up with that, just to say, everyone that spoke tonight should go on that email location and submit your comments so that we have a way to respond to you.
And collect those comments, because remember, this task force is authoring a final report, and your comments are exactly what will inform the direction that we go. So we want to know what's going on, and we want to be able to detail what residents are experiencing. That's really critical for how we move forward, creating that blueprint, as we discussed in our first meeting. And if you didn't listen to our first meeting, I do also recommend go to our website, southamptontowny.gov. If you look up the Traffic Mitigation and Safety Task Force, you can watch the first meeting, and the minutes are there too. I do recommend that. There were some emails that came through to us, to Supervisor Moore, to me. I just wanted to make sure that we put this in for the record. This is from Miles Jaffe. Regarding traffic control measures in residential Bridgehampton. And he states, the residential neighborhood north of Main Street in Bridgehampton has become a very heavily trafficked highway bypass. Speed limits are routinely ignored, and insufficient traffic control measures that create critical hazards to pedestrian traffic within the community and to and from the Bridgehampton train station. The volume and speed traffic on Lumber, Maple, and Butter Lanes, the lack of crosswalks connecting the existing sidewalks of these streets, the lack of a sidewalk on Butter Lane, the general lack of traffic controls, and the lack of enforcement on the traffic controls that do exist make these extremely dangerous intersections for pedestrians. Residents are afraid to walk the streets in our neighborhood. There has been vehicular accidents. He goes on to say that the frequency and volume of traffic noise, much of which comes from trucks bypassing the congestion of Main Street, adversely affects the quality of life throughout our neighborhood. And he lists some various suggestions, such as the installation of a speed limit sign at the southern beginning of Lumber Lane, installation of stop signs and stop lines, both north and south of Lumber Lane at the intersection of Maple Lane, converting this intersection to a three-way stop, installation of a crosswalk connecting the sidewalks on Lumber and Maple Lanes with appropriate signage, installation of a sidewalk on the west side of Lumber Lane from Maple Lane, installation of stop signs at stop lines both east and west on Maple Lane at the intersection of Corwith Avenue, and the installation of a sidewalk on Butter Lane and a crosswalk connecting it to the existing sidewalk on Maple Lane, which must be extended to Butter Lane with appropriate signage, enforcement of traffic laws, including speed limits and pedestrian crossings.
And that was a petition.
Did you want to?
Yeah, just to note, it wasn't just from Mr. Jaffe, it's a petition that was signed by, I believe he said 50 Bridgehampton residents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. And we also had an email that Elaine Botman did send to me as well from some of the other members who are here from the Shinnecock Hills neighborhood that spoke earlier. In reference to the above scheduled meeting, which is about this, she is requesting, along with the neighbors, a few pertinent facts regarding the above road to be available. Total accidents on CR 39 from the widening of the road 2008 to present. Total accidents on Greenfield Road since the widening of road to present. How many cars traveled on County Road 39 per day, and a CAC member to be appointed to the task force. So we did go over some data today. You know, I really haven't considered having CAC representation on this and thought about it. And one of the things that I was thinking about, if I were to include one member from one CAC, how many CACs do we have? We have quite a few. We'd have to include many. And a lot of these individuals are people who are doers in the town. They're agency heads, as well as our EMS and first responders, public safety folks. We also have a business representative who is not here today, couldn't be here, but he was at our last meeting. That's why we have the public portion. And if you are a CAC leader, feel free to contact me, and I'd be happy to carve out some time during our public portion to give you a little extra time to bring you forth your community concerns. This is really about hearing all of you. We want to hear from the residents. We want to hear from the civic participants. That is a really important part of this. I had one more that I wanted to just read into the record, and then we'll move on. This is from Dorothy Frankel. Thank you for putting this committee together to find traffic solutions. Of course, Route 39, 27 Montauk Highway are a great concern. It was baffling how Noyak Road was not mentioned at all. Please raise the problems stating they can't go out of their driveways on other roads, yet a residential road of Noyak Road not addressed. Points I would like your committee to address: how many homes are on Noyak Road driveways? Noyak Road has become an ancillary road, causing much disruption for other owners. Scuttle Hole Road is as well. In your last meeting, if you spoke about the difficulty in getting out of their driveways on other roads, the committee was compassionate to that problem. Please apply that compassion to the people living on Noyak. Methods of data collection. Many years ago, we had a police officer use a speeding gun, and they calculated average speeds at 50 miles per hour, from 30 to 70 to 80. People are passing people on Noyak Road, a solid line. It's so dangerous. The road has been in such disrepair. People are swerving to not hit road potholes or road disruptions. There's a conversation about a sidewalk project on Noyak Road. But what happened was the entire group of over 20 people shouted out, "What about speeding?" That went on the entire meeting with no solution. Important to have people listen to. There are other things here too, noise level of traffic that Dorothy goes into, among other things. And I will say just to the folks at Noyak, because I've also been receiving emails from people in Noyak. I do want to say that I've been working with the highway department on this as well. The highway superintendent and the deputy highway superintendent have mapped out phase 1 of a resurfacing plan, and we're looking at that. We're looking at how we can expend those funds, where we could get the funds from. A lot of this means money and how we get that money, and we're looking at all of those different aspects. And the first, just so everybody is aware, if you're on Noyak Road, the first phase would be first phase of paving, mill and overlay would be from North Sea Road to just past Whalebone Landing. and that's a little over $1 million. So we're looking at that. We want to also be, we want to hear and have an open dialogue with the folks from Shinnecock Hills Road. I'd love to come for breakfast.
Anytime, Michael.
Thank you.
Already offered it to Charlie.
Yes, happy to do so.
And Maria.
Speaking of Charlie, next up on our agenda are updates from Highway Superintendent Charlie McCardle. So take it away.
So I get to listen to quite a few people, and 50% of the people are saying it takes me forever to get from A to B because the traffic is backed up. And in that area, 100% of the people saying they can't get out of their driveway because it's bumper to bumper in front of their house. Then we move to the other 50% that the road clears up and they do 100 to get to the next spot to sit in traffic. So listen to the balance we have here. We have to move these cars where it's bumper to bumper, but then we have to slow them down for the safety of people that live on these streets. This is not an easy thing that you're asking. It's not a turn lane or an adjusting of a light. I came up with all these plans of blinking lights and all these things to move the traffic, and I have an idea, but a lot of it's on hold while the county is doing their study, their newest study. I get it. We're all frustrated with it. But Michael asked me and this committee to think outside the box. And one of the things I was thinking about, and it would need like a joint municipality approval, on a rainy day, the traffic is light. Do we agree? Because the outside workers are not there that day. So on a rainy day, we don't need cones, we don't need blinking lights. The traffic is okay. What if all the municipalities on the East End came together and they came up with a code? Like in Southampton Village, you can't use a blower after 6. We're moving towards electric blowers. What if we came up with codes that said anyone that works outside can only work 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.? And don't jump down my throat. Just think about it for a minute.
When you say someone who works outside, can you?
When I say landscapers, pool guys, tennis court companies, anyone banging nails, that's outside. If they're working outside, they can only be permitted between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. That would allow all the business people, school teachers, people that work at the hospitals to get to work like it's a rainy day. Now, it would mean traffic steady throughout the whole day, including the evening. Now, if you live on Sabonic Road, the only reason people are on Sabonic Road is because 39 is backed up. But on a rainy day, Sabonic Road is not backed up because people go on 39. So I just throw this out there as a thought to think outside the box. Every landscaper may be ready to hang me, I don't know. But if you think about it, if I was a builder, I certainly would move to having my employees work 10 to 6 because they wouldn't have to leave from Patchogue or William Floyd or places further west at 5 in the morning. If you saw Mr. Neely's chart, 6 o'clock was the key time for everybody. If workers that work outside weren't allowed to be on site till 10 o'clock, they wouldn't be there at 6 in the morning.
Who's going to enforce it?
So here's how you enforce it. And again, I'm just commenting here. The homeowner that allows a worker to work prior to 10 a.m. would receive a summons. And those workers would not be working till 10 a.m. if the homeowner is responsible. Again, I'm just spitballing here. I'm just throwing this out there. We could talk about $1 million studies, bridges. You could talk about roundabouts. You could talk about blinking lights, having police officers at every intersection. New York City, you have a brownie at every intersection. You could talk all about that. But you still have that volume of 40,000 cars a day going past these locations. If we spread it out, maybe it would work.
Any comments from the board, please?
What Charlie's talking about, the concept is called staggered work hours. It is used in other places, I think more for office-type workers, people that work inside, not outside. But that's a matter, and I think that's a future strategy we could talk about, transportation demand management, trying to encourage, the example I would use would be doctor's offices or other businesses go from, instead of 9 to 5, 10 to 6. I think those are the kind of, I think, you know, there's a germ of an idea there in that if you get employees to come to work at a different time, you're spreading it out and you are reducing your congestion. Now, persuading any business, whether it's a contractor or whether it's a, you know, professional office to do that, you know, is going to be a challenge.
It's all about volume, as Charlie said, and spreading it out. So I mean, I think it's a good idea. And other towns have restrictions on when landscape work can go on, as well as construction work going on, and it's more noise induced, the regulations. But I don't see why it couldn't be done in this way, for this instance.
Yeah, 2 years ago I came up with a schedule, and under the premise that most people travel from out west, right? So
Tom, can you just grab the mic and point it towards you? Sorry. Oh, okay.
Came up with a bit of a schedule a couple of years ago. Basically, the premise is that people are traveling from out west to get out east, right? So it takes a certain amount of time to get to Sacaponic from Mastic, and it takes a certain amount of time to get from Flanders from Mastic, right? So you just take those start times and you stagger those across the town, so that now you're actually taking that trade parade and now you're incrementally moving that trade parade, right? Because you're gonna, so if you're leaving Shirley and you're trying to get to, so you break them up into areas based on the building permits. Like area 1 and 2 would be like Flanders and Hampton Bays. So if you're leaving Mastic, it would take about 25 minutes to get to those areas. Whereas if you're trying to get to North Sea or Sacaponic, you're going to leave earlier than that. So by starting the building permits on staggered times, and not just being like 10 o'clock, you're still going to have that big throw to traffic in there. But then you break that down incrementally further based on how long it would take for people to get further out east. So,
I mean, as Tom mentioned, 50% are going to East Hampton. So if we get the other municipalities on board with some sort of outside workers have later hours, or they're permitted later to work, I think it would spread out the actual parade, and people would stay on the main streets, and it could resolve a lot of the problems that you're talking about.
I like your creativity.
But wait.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the public comment is unfortunately over. I'm sorry.
Anyway.
If we have any time after, we'll let you come up. Thank you. So, great idea. I think that we should look at that further and see what the legal implications of that are. We have our town attorney here. Thank you for being with us. So we'll explore that further, and maybe we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting. Chief Kiernan, you're next on the agenda. You've also had some ideas as well, based on some of the topics that we discussed last meeting. We actually, to kind of deal with the speeding, we were thinking about, so speed cameras is a little scary, especially for Southampton, I think. We don't want to turn this into a police state, but I think that we would welcome measures to really reduce people's erratic driving behavior. So one of the things that we're looking at is the feasibility of issuing, first of all, installing cameras at certain locations, number one, and then seeing the feasibility of issuing letters, and maybe they could be actual tickets, maybe they could be actual violations, right? But before we get there, a step maybe is, can we first trial out letters to individuals where they can't get their beach pass, for instance, that year, because they've amassed 3 letters, right, that said, we've caught you on camera, right? Chief,
let me start by just saying that I've heard everybody, and I understand the frustration, and everybody up here understands. Trust me, I can tell you that these people work very hard to fix problems. And nothing frustrates us more than not being able to fix a problem. And we do hear you. I hear you. I hear that it's you're taking your life in your hands when you leave your neighborhoods. I hear you. I just want to say a couple of things about you mentioned a few things about the police department, and these officers are responsive. You mentioned Officer McMahon, who's a fantastic officer. So I did a little bit of math, and you have to generalize because the police service isn't the same every day. So when you do math and try to fit things into a grid, it's really general. But what it comes down to is each police officer has about 2 hours of proactive policing time available to them. If you take away their meal, if you take away their calls for service. And those calls for service also include, like, you may see police officers standing still. What we have done over the last several years is we don't pull police officers off the road anymore to do training. They do training in their car. They watch videos and take tests in their car. So there, you may see them doing that. They do that weekly. You also see them doing their reports in their car. They can't do that while they're moving. So a lot of times, I do get calls where, hey, if your police officer isn't sitting in the firehouse parking lot and they were doing speed enforcement, they could get a lot more done. But I do watch that, and the supervisors do watch that. They are hardworking. Like I said, if you look in general, they have 2 hours to do proactive policing. So that's speed enforcement. That's also follow-ups. Our police officers, we're not specialized units like big police departments. So they follow up on the crimes that occur here. So they need time to do that as well. But that's not to say we can't improve. We can't do more. And where I think we can do more is one of the things that the council member was talking about was New York State says we cannot find people electronically. We cannot have electronic speed cameras in New York State unless it's a school zone, right? So we can't do that, okay, unless there's some kind of legislative change, and that's off the table. But there are mechanisms to have those speed cameras issue those type of warnings, right? And what that will do, I don't know. I don't know what a warning will do. Maybe attached to your permits, maybe the mailing itself will be just too cumbersome and too expensive. And maybe, because when it's a citation, the company that you contract with gets a portion of the fine. When it's a greeting saying, hey, please slow down in our town, we have to pay for that to be sent to them. So it's going to be an expense. But it's an expense that I think I should research and bring to the town board for their consideration. But what it really does, what those cameras really will do, if it doesn't help in that respect, and if we can't tie town permits to it, or even building permits we can tie to it, or we could think out of the box with all different things we can tie to those things. I think more of giving incentives for people who don't get them. You get a free beach permit if you don't have one of those, because like people said, and I tried to drive here from Hampton Bays and go 35 miles an hour on 39 to get here. It's very hard to do because nobody was in my way. It's not easy to go 35 miles an hour from Hampton Bays to here on 39. It's not easy. So I maintained 40, but cars were passing me, right? And you all know it. But maybe we can incentivize, give incentives for that. Maybe if the mailing becomes too much, maybe it could be attached to the tax bill and say, you know what, in your tax bill, you were observed this many times, speeding in the town or driving aggressively in the town, just to let them know they were observed doing that. We appreciate if you would slow down. But there could be incentives for not doing that. But more importantly, what it will do for us, because those police officers only have that short amount of time available to them until we grow more, which we do have plans to grow, is it acts as to help us with precision policing. It will tell us who the violators are, when they violate, and then we can take that police officer and put them looking for a specific person at a specific time that they violate, and we will catch them. They don't have to sit there all day, every day, waiting for it to happen. We'll have the data, actually, which cars are being violated, which people, the register, but it's not necessarily the operator, but we'll have that data and we'll be able to do more putting police where they need to be at the right time. It's very frustrating when you know, it starts off with these speed trailers, and you do a study, and people on Noyak Road, people are speeding, but they're not speeding constantly. And sometimes we get those reports back, and 85% of the vehicles are going under 40. So when do we put the police there, to catch the single digits of cars a week that are going 60? So this will, something like this may work for that particular application.
Yeah, Chief, so on that, really
Yeah.
quickly, so if we can't issue letters, because I was talking with Assistant Town Attorney, Mr. Cambridge, about this, if we can't, by chance, issue letters, could we collect that data for where, is that what you're saying, if we are to put the?
I can speak to
Yeah,
that.
go ahead.
So I'm Assistant Town Attorney Sean Cambridge. I report to James Burke, our Town Attorney. So we've spoken about this pretty extensively. In the field of speeding, we're actually preempted. The state regulates speeding. VTL 1180. We certainly can observe these things, though. That's not regulating. So you can put a camera anywhere where somebody would not have a reasonable expectation of privacy. So like the chief is discussing, this would be fantastic to identify. There's a yellow Camaro that does 105 miles an hour every day on Route 39. We can target that individual and say, be on the lookout for a yellow Camaro. To regulate a consequence, we need an enabling statute from the state. So you've seen this most recently happen. Governor Hochul passed legislation for New York City. So now speed cameras in school zones in New York City operate 24/7, 365, because that enabling statute allows the city to regulate in this manner. So it's not a no by any means. I know the attorneys always come up and say no. That's not what I'm here for today. We can lay out a path forward to regulate in this way, though, if our town board supports that.
So, Sean, so is it perfectly reasonable for the town to have speed cameras placed at various parts of the town to identify traffic patterns of where to place enforcement?
Sure. So monitoring is always a good thing. So the New York State Thruway, for example, has cameras throughout the course of the thruway just to see how traffic's flowing, to see, particular vehicles. It helps with amber alerts, silver alerts, things of that nature. So it would be a sound investment. I'd recommend.
Sean, I have a question. Aren't those digital speed signs without the cameras that are less expensive, they do the counting as well, and that they track the speed of the vehicles? So what's the advantage of actually having the cameras?
It's just actual eyes on the roadway. So a police officer can view that road in real time and see what those conditions are like. Those signs are certainly effective as well. They deter the public. They see what speed they're traveling at. That certainly helps. People don't always realize how fast they're going, especially with different conditions.
I think those work.
I do as well.
What's the difference in cost between cameras and the signs? Do you know?
Oh, I'm not exactly sure.
I'm looking, I was in discussions with this company that has both, but they didn't get back to me with prices on cameras, but the supervisor mentioned last meeting, and she was spot on with her numbers, but the signs that we're talking about are $3,500, and then if you add a solar panel, it goes to $4,000. But, those are definitely useful. And, I would think that, we have 15 hamlets. If you put 5 per hamlet, you're still talking about $300,000 worth of signs. It's a significant amount of money that we would look for the governor's traffic safety committee to try to get some funding. But, so that is a cheaper way to do it. The cameras, though, pinpoint the actual offender. So we could target those offenders.
But are we talking about the yellow Camaro, or are we talking about thousands of cars going?
No, it would tell us a yellow
55?
Camaro that is registered to Joe
No, but I mean,
Jones, who
is
lives
that
in
what the problem is? One road, these rogue people, or
Yeah.
are we talking about everybody speeding on 39 and, Noyak Road?
Yeah, what I would suggest is they have fixed cameras, and they have like the highway department has the trailer. We have one trailer. They do also have those trailers with a camera on it. So I would suggest starting with one of those and moving it around, starting with probably Noyak Road, and seeing where, if we can identify specific people.
We don't have one yet.
No, we don't have one of those type of cameras, but, and actually a start, we've already started, those trailers are deployed daily, and they, you know, we get those,
Get the data
the
from it.
data from it, that's, you know, very valuable. And a lot of times, it's not as bad as we get reports of. You know, I would say most of the time, that data comes back and it's not as alarming
Well,
as you would think.
could it actually be because they're working? Because they're actually slowing down traffic when they're out?
So we've actually collected data with them off.
Okay.
It's a
Right.
black screen.
Oh, wow, that's why it was off?
We used to do that.
And, you know, it's, you know, there are issues, but they may not be as drastic as it's being sounded.
We have small, narrow roads, so you stand on a small, and the houses are very close to the road. The noise and the speed, you know, 40 miles an hour looks like 60 if you're standing on the road or trying to get your mail out of the mailbox.
I'm gonna agree 39, they do twice that, but
Oh,
on
no,
some of the
I-
side roads, you know, you have your offenders, but
Yeah.
it may not be to the level, but that's why we have these things to collect the data. And we've done them with them on, with them off.
And Chief, I just want to say thank you for your collaboration with the Highway Department on Noyak Road recently. I really appreciate that.
Of course.
Donna, you had a question? Before, and then
Yeah, I
the
do
Chief
have a
can
question, because I do find this method, you know, as a positive. Again, we always want to try things to get to the result. But I know they're very expensive in enforcement, and maybe Sean or the chief could help clarify. These are based on license plate reader. So the car and plate may be registered to a certain car owner, but it may not be that person behind the wheel. What kind of legal impact does that put if it's not that person? And again, I'm all for this, you know, slowing everybody down. Believe me, I have 20 years in the ambulance, but I don't want to see all this money if we can't enforce.
Sure.
Especially since something as much as like the school bus cameras went in, but we haven't been able to enforce that in, we're going on 5 years now.
So with an enabling statute from the state, it goes to the registered owner. It would
Okay.
be
But it
very
would just
tailored.
be the gentle letter saying, slow down.
Okay.
What I would like to do is put the police officer where that person continues to come through and give the operator the ticket.
Okay.
Not the
You
register.
still have to pull them over.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what I
physically
thought
have
meant
a
the
police officer.
automatic letter.
It's just that
'cause-
I'll now know who the more the offenders that are going through every day going.
And to piggyback off what the chief is saying, a lot of the same people are traveling the same routes every single day. We actually have one of the busiest justice courts in New York State. I would say the Suffolk County DA's office is prosecuting, I would say, 20 to 30,000 traffic cases. So we have a huge amount of enforcement. On the same token, the highway superintendent has been working with our code enforcement division. We have a lot of enforcement litigation regarding exactly what everyone's bringing to this board, removing obstructions, removing driveways that are not permitted, removing aprons that are not permitted. We've been doing an immense amount of this enforcement litigation. I'd say I had about 10 cases on involving that exact issue today. Since the first meeting of this task force, I think we've put in 5 stop signs. So this task force is responding pretty quickly. The town attorney's office has been working to support the goals, and we'll continue to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good.
Like Charlie said, I'm just throwing an idea out. I'm not necessarily recommending it at this time, just throwing an idea
No,
out.
thank you.
That's what we're trying to do. just
Right. We
move
had,
around ideas.
just if you want an idea of what we're doing as far as tickets, so far this year, we had 2,437 tickets townwide. 277 of those are speeding. That's just electronic tickets. Some people still are writing when the software is down. There's 14,000 events that police officers handled since January. So that's just a basic what they're doing out there.
Go ahead, Tom.
Michael, if I could jump in, one of the comments the chief made, and I do agree 100% from, the years I spent working with the police department and speed monitors, those monitors are very effective at identifying times and directions of speeders, and conveying or working with the police department that they have that information to act on is critical. And we have a number of permanent speed displays in the town that do have the capability of recording that data and then getting it to the police. But the chief used the word incentive, which reminded me, or incentivize, which reminded me of a program, an idea that we tried to pursue a number of years ago, in which I think it was the police chief and the town supervisor at that time recorded public service announcements about, slowing down, not speeding. I think that's probably something that, we could work on, trying to persuade people of, dangerous behavior, is not correct. And as I said, it was, the chief and the supervisor at the time, and we can put those on CTV, we can put them on YouTube TV, I think. The other aspect that we can also get from the Governor's Traffic Safety Office, from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, are posters, commercials. We used to put don't drink and drive around St. Patrick's Day. We used to post those on the town website. There are video commercials, the ones you see on television every night about don't drink and drive, or don't speed and drive, or the newest one is don't smoke pot and drive. I saw that one today. Mothers Against Drunk Driving was effective in curbing, leading the way on curbing, that kind of misbehavior. And I think, in our small world here, it certainly wouldn't hurt to try to explore those avenues to, get those commercials, get those radio spots, get video spots, whatever we can use, posters, and consider, having some of our community leaders here or others, record stuff that we could put on the air to persuade people, remind people, you've got to change their behavior. You can do it through enforcement. You can do it through, mechanical means by doing things to roads to make them act differently. You can also try to persuade them that what they're doing is not the right thing.
Chief, did you have anything else?
No, sir.
So, just a question for you, Chief. Are we able to create a traffic, like a specialized unit I know that, I think did we have one at one time?
We did have a highway unit at one time.
Would that be something that would be feasible, or is that, again, budgetary?
That's a budgetary issue, and it would entail increasing the size of the department.
And that's something that's really based on the town board's purview?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Because I've also heard that they'd like to see police officers specifically geared toward traffic enforcement specific, which is an interesting idea. Love that idea. I just want to also mention there was an idea that was brought up last meeting. I just wanted to mention, this is my little update about the creation of subcommittees, that this task force would have just a line of different subcommittees reaching into the communities. I think it's a great idea, but maybe for down the road. I think what we should do is finish up our 6 meetings first. Let's work on what we have to work on. Let's keep hearing from the community before we delve into smaller committees. But I think that there is going to be, we're going to need something. There's going to be a recommendation section in our final report. I think one of those recommendations should be the establishment of some sort of community traffic subcommittee that allows for there to be continued dialogue between our CACs or civic groups and the town as far as traffic safety and mitigation go. So that's something that I think we could do later on down the road. I don't know what you all think about that. Because I don't want that to encumber our ability to get through these next few meetings and also complete the final report. Does that sound good? Mm-hmm. Any other comments? Tom or Charlie, any final thoughts? All right.
So we're going to outline, do you think we're going to outline all the serious, the areas of concern that we're hearing from?
Yeah, so that's why you coming to us is vitally important, so we can really kind of catalog all of it for our final report. I just want to make mention that our next meeting, we're missing Assemblyman Fred Thiel today. He couldn't make it. He is a part of our task force. We need state support if we want more trains, if we want state aid to fix some of our roads. And he will, I think he's planning on being at the next meeting. We're hoping that we can also get somebody from a state DOT or the LIRR at our next meeting, which will be a really important thing. So they'll be here to present. And our next meeting is scheduled for June 26th at 4 p.m. June 26th at 4 p.m. I want to say that I wanted to hold this meeting at 6 o'clock because I've been told that some people get out of work at 4 or 5. They want to be able to make it to this meeting. I want to make sure there was a late meeting. I'm going to try to have another late meeting, but it is difficult. I just want to mention that a lot of the folks who are here keeping us safe, public safety, thanks to Ryan Murphy, our director, those folks are working overtime, so we want to make sure that we're fair to them as well.
Yeah, and there is the Zoom feature for
And we
people
have
who
our
can't
Zoom
make
feature.
it.
That's right. That's
And
right.
letters.
That's right. So thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it, and we hope to see you next month for our next meeting.
Thank you. Make a motion, the meeting be adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, aye, aye.
Okay, we are adjourned.